Welcome to Franchising Stronger Together. I'm your host, Red Boswell, president of the International Franchise Professionals Group. There we are, IFPG. We are joined today by a great friend, a great leader, a mentor in many ways in franchising, Mark Jameson. Mark is the Executive Vice President of Development and Support at FastSigns. Welcome to the call today, Mark.
Brad, good to see you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
And you are hunkered down at home number 2. You're not in beautiful Dallas with me. You're in beautiful Palm Springs.
I am. I figured if I was going to be stuck someplace for a while, I'd rather be stuck with a pool and a golf course. And so I opted to get out of Dallas. But I'll be back. I'm coming back next week. So it's all good. It's all good. Nice to have a place to get away from.
Well, the restaurants are opening up here, so we'll have to do lunch.
I look forward to that. That would be amazing. That would spend so long.
Yeah, it has been way too long in many ways. So, and if your new baby jumps up on your lap, no one will complain.
Well, right now she's sleeping in the chair across from me, but we'll see how long that lasts.
Excellent. Well, you're obviously safe and healthy, and the family's doing well. No problems there.
No, we're doing good. I mean, you know, we're laying low like everybody is. It's definitely strange. It's definitely weird. I miss going out east to see my parents. My other half is here in California, so we get to see each other from time to time. And we have great neighbors we love out here, but you know, it's definitely strange times. But yeah, no, we're healthy and can't complain, and you know, working more time than I've ever worked, harder in my life. Really helping our franchisees and everything else we got going on. So, but no, we're healthy. What about you? You're doing good?
Well, thank you. Yeah, really blessed. I am actually in the office in Dallas, and the family is at home. School is out, and the kids are loving it. I've got 3 teenagers now, three high schoolers. So
did you have to do any of the homeschooling thing?
We did plenty of the homeschooling thing. Fortunately, it was a lot of the teachers on Zoom and email and all that. It wasn't so much mama.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
I heard some horror stories from some of our employees that were teaching their kids, and and they were like, this is harder than I remember. So I think a lot more appreciation, not only for healthcare workers, obviously, for so many reasons, but I think a lot of appreciation for teachers going on right now.
Amen. Boy, they all need a raise for sure. Yeah. Well, Mark, this is a brand, FastSigns, that I'm pretty familiar with. So many times I'll interview somebody and I'm like, what do you do again? But FastSigns, been to your corporate headquarters, love Catherine, your whole team, Scott, and just a rock star team across the board. So I would expect y'all to have been pretty negatively impacted through this. But from a little tease you gave me earlier, I think I might be way off base. How have you been impacted?
Well, we've certainly been impacted. I think you can't go through something like this and not expect things to be different. You know, there's no blueprint for this, right? That's the part that's hard. We've all been, you know, you and I are old enough, I guess I'll say, that we've been through tough economies and recessions, but this is like nothing before. We are lucky compared to many others in that we were deemed early on an essential business. And we worked with our franchisees. We worked with the International Sign Association. We worked with the Texas Sign Association and various others to make sure we had the documents so that our franchisees could say we're essential. Why are we essential? Well, we print signage and other important documents for hospitals, police, fire, medical, even any open business, restaurants for a while, which while they were not open in Dallas, you could in fact, you know, do a drive-through. Well, that means, what does it mean when I redo and close my lobby? Well, you've got to inform and direct your customer. And how do you do that? You do it with signage. So we were absolutely impacted. I would not kid you and say we were not, but we were of the lucky ones. I was very happy that we were not in the gym business and some of the restaurant businesses because my heart bleeds and I've got good friends in those businesses. But in a general sense, 95% of our locations, at least in the US and Canada, were open and operating. We had a handful that closed in markets that were more severely impacted, like Manhattan, as you can imagine, and some other parts of the East Coast. And then our locations in the UK were more severely impacted. We have about 20 locations in the United Kingdom, and they were on lockdown. They were truly on lockdown, in which they couldn't even operate being essential or otherwise, except I think we had 3 locations open there. So we fared well compared to others, right? I guess I'm learning to be appreciative of the things that are good and not focus on the things that aren't good, right?
Yeah, especially compared to so many other businesses that were impacted negatively. Now, for those who don't know, I just assumed that everybody's like me and everybody's getting out and knows FastSigns. But remind us, who is FastSigns? How big are you? You make signs of
Yeah.
all sorts, but how big are you?
Yeah, good question. So today this year we celebrate our 35th anniversary, 35 years in business. We are 725 locations in 9 countries. So we operate and franchise direct in the US, UK, and Canada. And then we have master franchisees in the other countries we do not operate directly in. We are by far the largest sign and graphics business, ranked number 1 5 years in a row by Entrepreneur, the only one in our business in the top 100 by Entrepreneur, the only one recognized by Forbes magazine. But while we are a sign company, we really like to think of ourselves more as a visual communications company. Because today, what's a sign? What's behind you on the wall is a sign. That's obvious, right? But today, it's wallpaper, it's floor graphics, it's vehicle wraps, it is digital signage. And in the COVID times, we've pivoted now, and our centers have capabilities to produce masks and to produce safety shields and a whole new line of products that we never imagined. But our equipment allows us to produce that. We cut acrylic on a regular basis. So it's not really hard to take and make a safety shield now out of the same material. So you know, largest sign and graphic business. We are 620 in the US, the rest are outside of the US, continuing to grow. And we do have an amazing team. Our CEO, as you know, and everybody knows, is the chair of the IFA this year. Probably not the year she would have chosen if she could have picked it. But her leadership has really brought us where we are and where we continue to grow and all of that. So.
And Mark, from to put in perspective, what's the investment range for your franchisees?
Just around 200,000 at the low end to just shy of 290 on the high end. Real numbers about average 250 key in the door, including working capital. We look for about 80,000 liquid, but we're lucky to have a lending vehicle in place. We've got about $15 million secured of SBA funding just for FastSigns growth. And we can obviously help our franchisees get financing.
So your franchisees were impacted, but not as bad as many. How about you? You're the franchisor. How did your life change? Communications, any new, you've just shared some new income streams or business unit type additions. What has changed for you? And then how have you helped the franchisees through those changes?
Yeah, good question. You know, the first thing we did is fired up a site that we called Prepared. It was an internal site called prepared.fastsigns.com, only accessible to franchisees. And that was everything COVID related. We recognized pretty quickly that this was going to be wide and far. And, you know, how do I get a PPP loan? Can I get rent relief? Will you help me with that? What other SBA programs are there out there for you? What new products should I be carrying? What messaging should I have for my customers? And this site is cross-functional. Everybody in the organization, marketing, supply chain, real estate, operations, sales development, and covers everything. And then we couple that with weekly, what we call Connect with Catherine. Catherine's always been an amazing communicator. About every 6 weeks, she would have a network-wide call. We moved that to weekly during the COVID crisis. So we're having weekly Connect with Catherine's, which is typically Catherine, myself, our marketing, and our other senior executives on the call with her, sharing supply chain updates. Because in our case, we were lucky we were open, but we had a hard time getting some materials. That acrylic behind you there is probably, you could go sell that in the street today and make a lot of money, because acrylic is something you can't get, just so you know.
It's the new grass.
Yeah, so we pivoted very quickly to weekly communication calls. I'm really proud to say that we worked as a team, and we've gotten almost all of our franchisees got PPP loans. Many of them got EIDL loans, and we worked with them hand in hand with several lenders because we knew that that liquidity for the network was going to be important. Even while we were operating, we were not operating at the same levels that we were prior to the crisis. So I think it was regular weekly communication, ongoing communication outside of that, having a one site for everybody to go to say, if you got a question, go here. And what, not to be too long-winded about it, Red, but what was really impressive to me and remains that today is to see the collaboration between our franchisees and our team in Dallas and around the world. So much of what's on that support site came from our franchisees who were trying something new and it worked, and they got local media, and then we shared it with other franchisees, and now they took that to the next level, and then we created an ad slick on it. So lots of communication, constant changing communication, and we really made the decision to help them across all channels of their business: financing, lending, rent relief, marketing, sales development, operations.
And you know, as you heard as I said, your title, development and support. I mean, that's the two big things that any franchisor does. The development is bringing on newbies, and supporting the ones you have. So,
and unfortunately, if I bring on some bad newbies, my sales team tells me, my ops team tells me pretty quickly. So it's a fine line for me as well.
Yeah, you are so many franchisors, development's over here, support and operations over here, and there the two shall meet. And in your case, that's your two arms.
It is.
And so they got to work well together.
Yeah.
And no doubt you've been covered up. So we know a lot about all the support you're giving your current franchisees, helping them pivot, disseminating all the new pivots and new information from the franchisees out there. But what about the development side? How has that been impacted? Did you lose some deals? Are they still on the sidelines, or have they woken up and gone over the finish line and been awarded? And then we'll talk about new franchise development or new pipeline in a moment.
Yeah, good question. I think all of the above. We absolutely lost deals. I think anybody today that doesn't admit that they lost deals is probably kidding themselves. We had folks, I think, that could come back, but just said, this is too much right now, right? This is just too much risk. I was often criticized, I love telling the story, because we didn't do discovery days. We haven't done discovery days for 10 years. We were virtual in our selling process. And many times I've spoken at events and on calls, and you've probably been there. You might have been one that criticized me.
No, I agreed with you.
And people are like, you're crazy. How could you not do discovery days? Well, now everybody's calling me saying, tell me how you sell franchises when you can't have a discovery day. So we were probably better prepared from that end of it because we were virtual for most of that process, except the in-center visits. But I'm proud to say that we had almost a record April. We closed 5 sales in April. And we continue to have a good pipeline. What's interesting is who the customer is or the candidate is has changed dramatically. This benefits brokers. Part of the reason why we're talking to you today is, we were going after co-brands and conversions this year. For us, lower investment makes a lot of sense. And that because we suspected after 10 years, there would be a slowdown in the economy this year. Seems natural. Never expected that would be what's happened. And we were making traction there. And then, of course, as the world began to change, everybody just said, hey, I'm in survival mode. I can't talk now about converting or co-branding. But what we saw was this trend of people who previously walked away because they could get a job anywhere, who no longer could get a job. And now we see our broker, which is broker networks, which are driving a lot of that. And that's a lot of what we've closed. So we brought new candidates in who said, hey, before it was a job or a franchise. Well, now I know the job thing's not going to happen. I might as well go out and do it. And I think because we were an essential business, we were able to open and operate. I think new candidates saw that as a real positive compared to other concepts that they looked at. And we were lucky that way. So it's been good. It's been different. It's been a challenge. We can't go out and fly to meet people. So we did have to add a virtual component at the front end of the process that wasn't there before.
And when you say that, Mark, you're meaning most franchisors don't realize, although you didn't do a discovery day at your corporate office, really early in your franchise development process that the candidates went through, you or your team jumped on a plane and went and saw them in the field early.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
rare. That's
So,
different.
yeah, we still believe, and that's what Discovery Day is all about. We just handled it differently. You got to be face to face, right? You got to meet them. You got to see what they're made of. We also want them to be in our business to say, can you see yourself doing this? Our business is complex because it's light manufacturing, and it's sales driven. And so there's two sides to the business, and that's important for people to see. So yeah, we would travel early on with a qualified candidate in the market, tour a location, have them meet franchisees. That all went away. And so we've had to replace that with webinars for candidates that are in the process. We've had to replace that with virtual store tours. We had a great video already made so we could take them through, this is what a FastSigns center looks like, and this is how it operates. So we were able to pivot very, very quickly, but we certainly had to do things differently. And I think we probably will going forward.
You read my mind. Let's talk about going forward. Well,
Yeah.
You know what? Before we talk going forward, what about that franchise development pipeline? Volume and quality and quantity as we speak. How has that gone? Let's talk about like 90 days ago. You saw a dip. And then is it back where it normally is? Is it above it? How's that looking?
You know, it's a good question. The last numbers I looked at, Red, it looked like we certainly took a dip. I think everybody did, right? During the heart of the crisis and the unknown, nobody was thinking about opening a franchise, even though we had people we'd talked to. It is back now, but it is certainly not back at the same level. But what I will tell you is, I think what's back is quality. I think what's back is the leads we're getting today, the candidates we're getting today are not tire kickers. There's a lot more of, I need to do something, and I now know that I'm not going to get a job, or it's likely I'm not going to get a job. And so I've decided I'm going to get serious about owning and operating a business. And so I do feel as if we're getting candidates earlier on. Now, that being said, they're still cautious. There's certainly more cautiousness out there. They want to talk to franchisees. They want to understand the impact on the business. I shared with you before the call, we opened 4 locations last month. Franchisees that had already been through the sales process, that had signed, had leases. And honestly, I was a little surprised by that. And I've spoken to them and they're happy. They're glad they did it. They're selling COVID-related signage. But we are seeing activity come back to normal. But I would not say it's at the same peak it was prior to COVID. But
a little lower quality, a little lower quantity, but a little better quality.
Yeah, I think so. And for us, you know, nothing against other concepts you represent and a lot of my friends, I think because we were open, we also got the benefit of folks that were looking at gyms or hair salons or other businesses and said, well, wait a minute, they had to close. You guys were able to operate. Now let me look at things that were considered an essential business during this crisis.
And what do you see moving forward on your validations? Franchisees out there seeing you burn the midnight oil and go above and beyond to support them and your whole team. Is that going to have a big impact on, you already had good validations. What's it going to do to them?
Thank you. You know, it's interesting. We were reluctant, I'll say, to do last week, we did a digital discovery day, a video discovery day with 25 candidates and 3 franchisees, our franchisees who told their story. And we were nervous about that because first off, they're busy. They're in the survival mode. But what was great to hear and what Catherine and I have seen through this time is franchisees are so appreciative. I got a note from a franchisee this morning who was an independent. She said, you know, I don't know that I could have made this if I didn't have the brand and the support and the backing and everything that you all have done in Dallas and around the world. So I have no doubt this will be good for validation. I have no doubt that what we did because we are a heavy support organization. And we didn't do it for validation in franchising. That's not why you do it.
Right. But
the end result is going to be very good for us. And I think it's going to help us sell more franchises and close more deals. And for the right reasons, because we really do have our heart in this. And we are partners and friends with many of our franchisees.
Yeah. Well, the tough times either drive you apart or pull you closer together, and they won't forget it when you're supporting them and doing what's right, because it's
Yeah.
what's right. And then
Yeah.
ultimately it comes back around in many wonderful ways. Well, what about that future? Do you see any predictions, any other advice for franchisors going through this and scared about the future?
Well, there's no doubt. I think what's been good to see from other companies, I've been fascinating to watch it. We had to pivot into new products and services, right? We will sell what I hate the term, but everybody knows that a sneeze guard, safety shield is the term we're using. But we never would have thought of that as a core part of our business. To me, that's not going to go away. And now we're adding a whole line of antimicrobial products and laminates and other things, because I think the mindset of the end buyer is going to be different. And I think that's going to affect every industry. I also know that
you're talking permanently.
I think permanently. Now for me, it's a good thing, Red, because I've always been a germaphobe. I've always been a little freaky about that stuff. So I'm kind of enjoying having my hand sanitizer everywhere I go. But so I think it's going to change across the board. We've already seen that. And I don't think it's temporary. I think it's permanent. I think this is going to wake people up. Not everybody, but I think people will think twice now about handshakes, and maybe it will be more elbow rub or whatever. I also think that every model, every franchise has to look at what they need to do to adopt to this. So for us, for example, we've created a whole platform for our outside salespeople, which we have about 600 through our franchisees, to sell virtually. Because for some period of time, you're not going to be able to meet with that customer. So I've got to teach them and train them to do it like we're doing it. So it's by video, or maybe it's a walkthrough, or send me photos. And we've kind of done what a lot of is touchless visits and that type of thing, contactless installation. I had some work done at the house here by California Closets, and they did an amazing job and sent me a checklist of all the things they were going to do to protect their employees and my home, and how they were going to wipe everything down. And I think anybody who's going into homes or businesses, and a lot of franchises do that, are going to have to look at how they deal with the customer. Some people in a year may not care, but I think the better part of population will say, gee, I hadn't thought about that before, but I think I do want you to wipe everything down with, alcohol and clean it. So I think it's important for everybody to look at, are you being relevant? We've updated our TV commercials. We run national TV. We've updated those 3 times throughout the crisis, so we wouldn't appear to be tone deaf. And we talked about that we were an essential business. We talked about helping people reopen. And I think every executive now has an obligation to its franchisees to look at this business and say, how is this going to impact us? Change the model, and what do we do? I was so impressed being in Dallas that Del Frisco's, which is one of my favorite places, they were offering grocery delivery with some of the basics they had to stay open. And I thought, what a unique idea. And I think that's the type of pivoting that we're all going to have to do at some point.
Empathy, showing empathy, showing that you care and you're human, and you're not just trying to sell something. We IPG, we do deal announcements, good news sharing. We actually turned off our deal announcements for close to 2 months, because although we want to share good news and share positivity, we felt like it was offending some folks who just said, shut up, I don't need to hear about a deal closing right now.
Right.
Life is, falling apart in many areas. So we had to pull back on our positivity. Although it was honest and true, it was too much for some people. So you have to have that empathy. And we stopped calling on franchisors about joining us. That's not a time to look for new business on that side. And yet,
and I think in the sales process, we have to be empathetic too, right? We have to make sure that we're more flexible, we're more understanding. And it may mean that we change some things. We've extended everybody's timeline to open their location. Automatically gave them an extra 6 months just to say, hey, any agreement we sign, we're going to give you an extra 6 months, because you know, you're going to want to be more cautious about this now. You're going to want to think differently. And so, yeah, I think empathy is going to be something that, you know, I hope the good that comes out of this stays, right? Where people are helping and closer together and all of that. I really do. I hope a lot of positive comes out of this.
Yes. And we get rid of the bickering in politics. That'll never
Well,
happen.
I know about that.
we can always dream.
We can
Well,
always dream.
Mark Jameson, good friend and leader and really respected leader of franchising. We appreciate you. You know, you're really the antithesis of what this series is all about: franchising stronger together, giving back to the franchise community with best practices, with advice, and just being transparent, like you are with your franchisees, and sharing with the community what you're doing. And sometimes that's struggling, but you're sharing it and helping others through it, even in the struggle. So thank you, sir, for that.
Well, you're a great friend. We love IFPG. We appreciate everything you do. And thank you for having me today. I've enjoyed it.
We'll see everybody on the next edition of Franchising Stronger Together. Thanks again, Mark.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Rad.